Welcome everybody watching. Today I have a special guest. Kyle, you want to introduce yourself? Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Kyle Cramblett. I work for the John Birch Society. I train activists to restore their government, whether that be on the state level, the local level, or on the national level. I also created Midland Doge, which is a website, midlanddoge.com, and use it as an online platform to post information during the bond election recently. Midland Doge is currently kind of under construction, though, so we'll be changing. So for now, there's really not much there. But if you want to get in contact with me, that's a good place to go. And just hit the menu, hit contact, and shoot an email. So,
And let's be honest, bro. You're part of the group and movement that helped stop the bond. If anybody sees Kyle out there, buy him a steak or a drink because we saved him and a lot of us and anybody that voted and shared and liked and whatever. We saved the taxpayers a lot of money, and I'm glad that you, with Stan and everybody else, told me about these bond situations. The profiteers, that's what they're called. This is all a scam. I believe any bond. I don't care if it's for a park, anything. The city, in my opinion, this has opened my eyes from Midland College to the city. But oh boy, I don't think the city has nothing to do with anything else. But if they're dealing with entertainment, stadiums, or whatever, that's not their role. Their role is utilities, the streets, and the police, basically. So when they start doing this other stuff to get, all this weird, they're doing all kinds of tax, jumping hurdles. And I'll quit blabbering here, but I'm just saying the city spending is out of control in Midland, y'all. And we started with Midland College, and now we're focusing on the city. Go ahead, Kyle, and introduce what we're going to do right now.
what we're going to do, we're going to play back a radio interview that Lori Blong participated in last Tuesday. So that is this past Tuesday with Greg Anderson. It's about a 21-minute interview. We're not going to do. We're going to skip through a little bit. There's some stuff that's not really applicable, and we're just. When I heard this, I thought it was so interesting on many levels. In one way, it felt like kind of a damage control interview. In another way, it kind of felt like an attack. So it's kind of this mixture between an attack and a defense on a boogeyman, kind of a group of people who are making allegations. Though in the interview, no actual allegations are stated. The defense is simply these people are inappropriate. You're going to hear for yourself. That's not the exact word that was used. So we're going to go through this thing. We're going to pause it and talk about some of the finer points here and debunk some things as well. And I hope it's entertaining, but more importantly, I hope this is a good educational thing for people who are interested in their local government.
And I'll just add this, it's pretty crazy how Slanderson, right, is always openly mocking us, the taxpayers, for asking questions. Even the people in the city council, these people that work, I would say for us, but I would say even, for the city, for the betterment of the city, they tell us all the time, Kyle, that they want our input. They're glad that we're talking. But I said in another video, it's like there's a cap to that. Once you start hitting that cap where you're asking too many questions, they're going to start calling you, conspiracy theorists or giving you calling you certain names and mocking you. It's just similar to, like I said, conspiracy theory and that actual word. If you look up, when that was pushed out there and why it was pushed out there, but that's what they do to us now. Now they mock us, for simply asking questions. And if we have allegations or we make content or videos or we go speak at the city council for 3 minutes, why can't we do that? We pay for that microphone. It's off of our hard-earned tax dollars. I digress. So here is the video or the audio, and it's these two right here.
Mayor of Midland and joins us. Things here. Number one is you did leave the city council meeting, but everybody knew that you were going to see your daughter.
That's right. Yes, and thanks for having me this morning. I'm happy to have the opportunity to be here with you. I did have to leave the city council meeting early to make it to a flight to go visit my daughter at Annapolis at the Naval Academy. She was celebrating completion of her freshman year with a big ceremony, and so I wanted to be able to be there with her, and we communicated that pretty clearly.
And there are those who said you didn't.
All right. Actually, roll it for a couple more seconds here.
And they had no idea that you were leaving.
Well, I shared it multiple times.
Yeah.
In the meeting. It's public record.
Okay.
All right.
You can pause it right there. Okay. I rewatched the meeting. That was not voiced. Lori did not tell the public that she would be leaving early until 1 hour and 8 minutes into the meeting. Now you have to understand, at this 1 hour and 8 minutes, here's what had already happened. There was an award ceremony for the Get to Know Midland people. I don't remember what that's called. The group of people that go
Midland 101.
Yeah, Midland 101. Okay. Very cute, very nice. Okay, they took pictures. Okay. Yay. Okay. And then there was the John Norman Award ceremony. Very good. Now, between those two things, that took quite a while. Then there was consent agenda, which took actually not as long as it should have, because nobody debated anything. It was a long list of things they were going to spend money on and voted for 6-0. Nobody debated anything. Then there was some other items, including planning and zoning items, lots of those that did take a while to get through. Also, there was a discussion about clearing up some questions about the debt. That was good, though. It's good that they showed that. All we asked was to, by the way, we being not we as an organized group, but a bunch of people that were just there to speak, wrote in there, can you move public comment to before consent agenda? Because if they're already going to be voting on all that stuff, then people don't get a chance to speak on it. So to the spectators there, and the participants, I should say, it seemed very inappropriate to refuse to move consent agenda, or to move public comment in front of the consent agenda. And then as soon as public comment was about to come around, to get up and leave the meeting with no warning until 1 hour and 8 minutes right before the public comment was going to be. So that's the reason. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to go visit your daughter or anything. I don't think anybody's saying that, you shouldn't have done that, or, you should care more about us. That's not what's being said. What's being said is simply, can we be heard here? Can the citizens of Midland be heard? Or are we going to get scolded like a kid in a classroom when we're confused as to why such an abrupt exit has to happen? And it's just from a political strategy point of view. Like it or not, Lori Blong, that was very poor optics. There was no public release of that was going to be happening. So just wanted to clear that up. We can roll the tape.
Well, I just want to add this. I even looked at the meeting. I said, this is going to look really bad. You got Terry Garrett, Midland's favorite legend over here, and she walks out with her smug look on her face. And I even said, this is going to look bad. I mean, and I even captioned it. She walked out on the meeting. I mean, what was wrong with my caption? It's like they get mad about my YouTube, captions or titles. It was nothing, inaccurate about it. She walked out of the meeting. We were not happy, and it was very bad optics. And I'll say real quick, they were all happy, right, about this, 6-0 vote. I want to see some dialogue. I want to see some back and forth. At the Midland MISD meeting, they did it better. They're up there arguing and crying. You know what I'm saying? And about things that are on the agenda. Anyways, the point is, I thought they handled this very poor. And then, like you said, because for the people in layman's terms, guys, we wrote on the paper, when you speak, you have to write on there what agenda item you want to talk about. And then in the comments, many of us did this. We put move the comments to the beginning, right? Basically before the y'all do these votes, and it makes sense. That way they can hear from the people about our opinion about them voting 6-0, which they did later. That's why we asked them to move the comments towards before everything else, and she blatantly disregarded it. She even says in the interview, I believe, or I think someone asked her, she said, yes, I'm not going to change the way I do it. We put the comments at the end, and we're going to continue doing that. She said that, but I'll continue.
Lori Blong. And you shared it with us, too.
I did share it with you in advance. I came and met with you and said I'm not going to be able to be on KWEL on the Wednesday following council, as is my typical custom, because I needed to make this trip. And so we set up for me to be here today. So I communicated it widely with lots of different folks.
Sure did. Lori Blong on AM 1070, KWBL, and FM 107.1. Is the sign thing resolved now? Do we know who, if the right word is, ordered the signs to be taken down and everything's been taken care of?
There was no order to take the signs down in private homes. There was they were removing signs that were illegally placed, and they were all signs that no matter what the content of the signs were. And a new employee who was not fully trained took them out of 2 homes. Those 2 homes, those signs were quickly replaced in the homes, but also in the public right of way for the time being. And We reached out to the homeowners. The city staff reached out to the homeowners of the 2 homes where those were removed, and they were returned. And then we've had significant training with all of the employees in the code enforcement office, and we're going to be moving forward with additional training requirements with them.
All right, Lori Blong's on the radio on.
All right, this is a key. This, I could almost say, is one of the main purposes of this show for her. I mean, of course, she goes on there regularly, but I think she or who's helping her plan is thinking, this is a good opportunity to do some damage control on the sign thing. These people aren't going away. And these people being voters who care about the election process, they care about freedom of speech, they care about personal property. So it's not just these people. But another thing a lot of people don't know about code enforcement, when there's a complaint filed on private property, the code enforcement is required to notify the property owner and give that owner the opportunity to remediate the situation. That's like code enforcement 101. Now, she also states it's one employee, or did she state? She might have not stated that here, but we'll state it later. You will hear more on this. But we know for a fact that it was, in fact, at least 2 employees as captured by the video. And we know from a quote of one of the witnesses that that employee said, "I'm only doing what I was told to do," which would also imply that the other employee was only doing what he or she was being told to do. And did these employees know that I have a feeling they both knew that you usually notify the property owner. So this is what we're so confused about. Now, we're going to hear more about this later, so I won't give away the whole story here. So we can, if we're already at about 220, we can skip to 450 right now, by the way.
It's at 210 right now.
Okay, let it roll a little bit, and we'll see.
1070 KWEL and FM 107.1. Beyond all of that, there's a lot of things going on. Let's address parking in Midland there.
Okay, we'll skip that. You can skip to 450. This part's pretty interesting. I think, yeah, this is going to be good. All right.
I'll hang up now.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your affirmation there. And I think
There was someone kissing the rear end with the call. Anyways, they didn't let Terry Garrett get on, but I'll digress.
that's an important thing to remember here. This is a volunteer role. There's a lot of discussion being had about how much money I make in this role. It is $75 a month, which I then donate. So it is a truly volunteer position.
I just want to say something real quick, Kyle. We're not really talking about how much money she makes. We're talking about how much Tommy Gonzalez makes. He makes $350,000. Got ran out of El Paso, and now he's running deals in Midland. Very bad optics. The thing I have an issue with Lori Blong is she makes $75 a month. They keep bringing it up, which we're not really even worried about that. But I have a question. How come she raised monumental numbers, $300,000 for her campaign for a position that only pays $75 a month? Why? That's just, to me, it just strikes me a little bit odd. You know, they say it's accusations. I'm just asking the question. Why is that position so, why'd they raise that much money? It broke records. That's kind of a thing I'm looking at. She makes $75 a month, but they put up $300K to put her in that position. I digress.
And so I do have responsibilities, and I signed up for those responsibilities, and I take them very seriously. I don't think that anybody could make an accusation that I'm not working hard in this role, but it is also very important for me to be there to support my family if I'm to continue to be able to do this role. And so, we have city staff and other council members who have families and who have other responsibilities, and, I think this is a really important thing for our community to see.
Okay, you could pause it there. Yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I haven't really heard anyone say that, she makes a lot of money. I haven't even heard anyone say that she's taking money under the table. So if they're I'm sure your audience already knows this is a straw man. They're creating a fake caricature of someone to attack, when really it's just a lot of random people too coming to the council meeting to ask questions because there's problems going on. So it's kind of from a political standpoint, I would highly recommend that she not talk about constituents this way. Instead, have a more transparent and open sort of way of speaking about this. If you're curious about the finances, let me show you all the transactions and bank statements, all the credit card statements. We recently took a city government trip to Austin. We'll show you all the credit card statements, how much we paid for the hotels. We have nothing to hide. But instead, it's people are saying I'm making hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're crazy. Don't listen to them. It's a very defensive way to go, and I don't think that that's assuming that there's nothing bad going on here. I don't think that's a very good strategy, especially with an election on the horizon. By the way, she says I'm a volunteer. I only make this amount of money. Yeah, but you're part of handling millions and millions of dollars of people's money in the city. So in a way, you're the steward of, well, after this debt gets paid off that they showed at the city council meeting, that's going to be billions of dollars of people's money. So it's important for her to remember here that this is kind of a momentous responsibility, monumental, I should say, a monumental responsibility. It's not, it's not bad for the locals to take your job very seriously. It is serious as hell, which it further lends to the point that leaving the meeting before public comment was bad optics when you're handling millions and millions of dollars worth of people's money. We might be able to skip again. Let's see. If you're at 542, is it at 542?
It's at 5:35. So about right.
Yeah,
It's
go ahead
about-
and skip. Skip to 802.
And I'm just going to say this, y'all. This is what they ain't used to. Look, I'm going to be honest. I'm already hearing a lot of stuff. Okay. And it's not hard to tell y'all when this stuff kind of happens and people do believe there's corruption in Midland. I believe there's corruption here. Again, it might not be the definition that Slanderson likes, but by the definition of the word corruption, there's corruption in Midland. I'm pretty sure in every city. If you get a chance, look at All the Queen's Horses. That's a pretty good documentary. Came out about 10 years ago. A woman in Dixon, Georgia, I believe, swindled the city out of $50 million, right? And she was getting audited too. But there's all kinds of connections. Just because they say there's an audit don't really mean nothing. Now, I'm not saying that's happening here with the mayor of Midland. I'm just saying in a city like Dixon, Georgia, I believe that's the actual city. It's a small city. They didn't believe who would think that it would happen like that? But this woman was embezzling money and did it for years, millions upon millions. I'm just saying, don't sit here and just think everything's on the up and up because, you just don't never know. All we're doing is trying to ask questions and go from there. But I'll play it right here. Let's continue.
Highlight a lot of the good things that are taking place. We're acknowledging the mess ups as well, and we're not hiding from those. We're being very transparent about it. One other thing I would highlight is we have had 2 years in a row of third-party financial audits with zero findings. So a lot of these, insinuations of problems that are happening financially are just completely unfounded. Those third-party audits are posted on our website. Those are available for the community to review. There are some of the folks that are running their mouths about some things that need to go educate themselves.
Pause it right there.
Wow.
All right.
It's very rude.
Lori, if I may speak to you directly, probably not a good tactic to say people running their mouths when they're just asking questions about what the city's doing. It doesn't feel good as a voter to have someone pontificate when, actually, enough said. Yeah, that's not a good word to use. I wouldn't do that in the future. Continue.
They pick up a microphone and really understand the reality of what is happening within the city of Midland.
As any business would do, and the city, same thing, you have audits.
We do have audits.
As you just talked about.
Annual
now,
audits.
And if something were awry, the audit would certainly, I would think,
Yeah. So let's talk about audits a little bit. By the way, she referred to the PAFR. So I went on the site and I looked at the PAFR. And it's really just it's like a business sales brochure. It just kind of shows little pie charts of the amount of money spent. So if you go look at that, you're not going to see any transactions or anything. If you were to look at the actual audit, I would like to see that. I'm open to that, giving us a lot of the information we're looking for. That's fine. But if you were to see the actual audit, I'm not sure what it would really show. I will be asking for that, though. It is not available on the site. From what I could tell, you have to request it. Now, we should discuss audits. We should discuss how they relate to corruption. An audit will identify if someone is like stealing money or something. It's looking for balanced books. It will not go into the individuals who received money for business transactions, let's say, and see if it's the brother of someone on the council. Audits will not do that. Maybe forensic audits will. I don't know about that. I have audited things before. Another thing to understand here is power is not wielded with only the spending of money. Power is wielded through opening up certain plats of land to be developed, or preventing certain plats of land from being developed, or as Dr. Matt Fries explained in a video that was captured at the town hall, it can be throwing the weight of the Chamber of Commerce around to get a bond passed. Now, the Chamber of Commerce is funded by the city. So it's important to understand when a person says our audits are with flying colors, blah, 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 that doesn't necessarily guarantee that the questions are going to be answered. By the way, I want to see bank statements, credit card transactions. I really want to see credit card transactions when the city and the employees go on trips. But I also want to see bank statements, who's getting the deals, who the consultants are. A lot of stuff happens with these consultants. And just full transparency on the books. In fact, it would be beautiful and groundbreaking for the city to just release the books. So let me make sure I'm not missing anything here. Yeah, so there's other way. By the way, I didn't list all the ways that corruption can happen or power can be wielded, but people fixate on the money side of this thing like a shiny object is not necessarily the only way to decipher what's going on. So please continue. Thank you.
To sit here and defend, but it's the truth. An audit is an audit, and somebody would find that, and there you are.
That's right.
Real quick, hey Kyle, what's up with those Slanderson? He just kind of is defending her. He's not asking any kind of journalistic questions. You want to touch on that real quick about his whole attitude, the way he treats it? Well, I don't even care how he treats us, but it's the way he handles this whole situation. And you're right. Most of his listeners agreed with us with the bonds. Most of Lori's, voters, we voted against this bond and this debt, right? And I'm not saying we speak for all of them, but they're like dissing us, bro. They're like, throwing certain kind of, I don't know, just words at us, attitudes. Why do you think that Slanderson's like this with the mayor? I mean, what do you think?
I think it's probably just genuinely he's friends with him and is like helping him out. But then with the mayor, or maybe not with the mayor, but with politicians in general, they go and do political deals, political stunts, or face saving operations, or that sort of thing. So I think it's a combination of that, but it's hard to tell. I do honestly think that Craig is just friends with the people that are on air and has such a strong rapport with them that it comes off as two people doing straw mans on people asking questions.
Okay, and we'll continue.
And so we have those fully available to anyone in our community that wants to review them. I would invite you to do that. We have a summarized version of that audit that we produced this year for the first time called our PAFR. It's an acronym, PAFR, that is also available on our website if you'd like to read the summarized version, or you can go see the full document. We will provide it to you.
Okay, allegations of money under the table. That's
okay. Stop it right there. So we're going to listen to this here and just bear in mind, try to listen for what allegations they're talking about. If there's any specific allegation stated, and if they clear up any allegations, roll the tape.
There are allegations, and at this point, quit making allegations. If you have something to discuss, then bring it forward and let's deal with it. But all of these insinuations are really for the 15 minutes of fame that it's bringing to the people that are saying it, and we're ready.
So if you go and you ask questions, let's say you even make an allegation, that's fine. You are just grandstanding for 15 minutes of fame. And I'm not straw manning them. That's what was just said. So you Midlanders out there, don't you dare take a video camera to the city council and start asking questions.
They don't want that.
You will be attacked on the radio for it.
I'm going to be honest. I kind of took a little bit of offense to that, but I built my platform a long time ago. I get bigger views on other topics. You know what I'm saying? This is a passion of mine to help clean up my city. I'm not asking nobody for money, bro. I want to know where the hell our money's going. So for her to say we're doing this for 15 minutes of fame, baby, Lori, I've already been having infamy and internet fame for a lot much longer than going to those meetings and getting 100,000 to a million plus views on these videos. That's all I got to say about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've worked with you quite a bit now, and we're never talking about, oh, this is going to be great, this is going to get a huge amount of views. We're just trying to document for people. It's just like simple public service educational, and it is fun, definitely kind of fun at times. It is kind of difficult at times though, especially when you get attacked on the radio every day.
But let's be honest, it's very interesting. You know, I think about this all day now. I'm driving around the city, downtown. We got a snow cone downtown. I'm looking at the event they have, the Bush Center. That's a whole big can of worms, in my opinion. I've heard stories. The Hotel Santa Rita. I'm looking at the buildings. I'm looking at the big old park they put downtown. Just freaking. I think that was a big waste of money. And I started wondering, like, man, what's going on in this city? You know, and I'm just always thinking. And the more they talk crap about me on the radio and Lori Blong, you know, I would never really use my haters for motivation. You know, I just do my thing. But the more I hear them diss me and diss my people and think this is a joke about our money that we work hard for, it gives me more fuel to my fire to keep digging. And I'm going to just say this, Kyle, everybody listening, the more you dig, the more you find out. And I'll just leave it at that.
And I want to say one more thing about the Hotel Santa Rita.
Man.
If if Lori, you're listening to this, or someone's listening to this, I would like to see the transactions on that hotel project. The Omni, is it now?
I don't even know they changed the name. I think that's probably it.
I would like to see the transactions. I would like to look into those companies and see if there's any relationship between the council or city management or anything like that, and the people who got the contracts. I'm not saying there is. We just want to know, and I doubt there is, but please release those statements, and we can take a look at them, and then we're good to go. You know,
they're on the up and up, Kyle. They're on the up and up. You know, I'm busting the Slanderson move. They're on the up and up, bro. There's no kind of corruption in this city. No, but I'm gonna be honest, bro. Be careful with that because Dan Corrales was going against them in the meeting, and I'm just gonna say this: 7-8 days later, he's unalived, right? And accidental, whatever. I'll leave it at that. So you want me to continue?
Go ahead.
I believe I speak for my council when I say we don't have anything to hide. We are volunteers who are interested in serving the community where we grew up. And that is what we're doing here.
And we'll bring in a call. Welcome into the broadcast on cable, AM, and FM with Midland Mayor Lori Blong. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I've got two questions hopefully I can ask.
Sure.
First off, Mayor, did you see on the forms that everybody filled out to speak at the meeting last Tuesday, did you see where people requested to have the public comments moved to before the consent items?
I did see that, and I chose not to do it because we followed the flow of a meeting as it was posted, and I intend to do that in the future as well.
Okay, I just wonder why you wouldn't want to hear you had to leave early. Why would you? I mean, I would think that the public comments would be more important than the voting, because the rest of the city council can vote without you. They don't need you to vote. They can still carry out those votes. So why would you choose to not hear the public if you know you need to leave early?
It's important to remember here that all the votes happened before the public comment. So what Lori's about to do is she's about to flip the question and say, I did listen to the public comment after the fact on the video. But that's not what the caller is saying. The caller is saying the whole consent agenda and all the $9 million that y'all voted 6-0 on and everything passed, why couldn't you have let us be heard before you left? Perfectly reasonable. You can roll it.
Used to hear the public. I went back and listened to all of the public comment as I said that I would. And so we handled the business. I do think that actually most of this community would say that our primary role as council members in a council meeting is to make good business decisions for this community, which is what we do.
Now, that sounds like a decent argument, but bear in mind they had 2 award ceremonies at the beginning of the meeting, which would have fit perfectly at the end of the meeting. So you could have easily fit public comment. I think the ceremonies were about a half hour, and I think public comment would have mostly fit right in that. There's about 10 people, 3 minutes apiece. That actually is perfect. So, okay, you can roll it again.
And then we provided opportunity for public comment, which I then went back and listened to and watched. And so I think that
I just want to say, what's the use of her going and listening and watching? She's not listening to us, and then she goes and slanders us on the radio. Huh.
I am present for a lot of these things. I have a meeting today at 11 o'clock with one of the individuals who wanted to speak with me further. And so I'm going to meet with him individually, and I'm happy to.
All right, that one really got me. For the record, and we're not going to say who the individual was. For the record, she asked the individual for a meeting, not the other way around. I'm not sure why she flipped that around. Okay, you can roll it again.
With you and anyone else who's interested in doing that.
Okay, can I ask another question then?
I'm going to say real quick, she tries to portray, right, in the public eye that she's very transparent, right? But whatever.
I want to chime in, too, on something. She said it's important to do the business of the city more important than hearing public comment or something like that. For those who didn't see the meeting, they spent $9 million in that. They approved the spending of $9 million in that meeting. In fact, if the public comment could have postponed that a little bit, that might have been nice, and people could have actually said, hey, maybe you shouldn't. Like there was that truck repair that no one knew about when you asked them because they didn't read the packet. Hey, why didn't we have insurance on that truck? Why are we spending, what was it, like $200,000 or more? What was it?
It was $250,000, and the funny thing is, the MacPack has the info and is sharing it. It's a flat landfill, and then somebody made a comment said, "I've seen that dump truck running around like a racetrack over there." So they flipped this equipment, $900,000 piece of equipment, and it's $250,000 in repairs. And the MacPack asked a good question: why don't we just let insurance cover it at that point? I mean, this Warren Cat equipment, very expensive to repair, and the taxpayers foot in the bill. And I kind of got John Norman, in a situation there because he said that he knew about it. He read it, 1,700 pages, Kyle. How? I don't believe he read it whatsoever. He looked kind of dumbfounded. I think he kind of exposed himself. But this is a lot of money on the taxpayer's dime for some equipment out there. Thank God nobody was injured, or I hope not. Who knows, right? Are they covering that up? I don't know. But that's a lot of money.
You said that nobody ordered the signs to be picked up out of the yards.
That's
but
correct.
Who ordered the signs to be picked up, period? Somebody gave an order for them to be picked up out of right-of-ways, and who did that?
The order, I don't know the name of the person who did that, but the order was given to enforce our city codes. And so what the individual was doing was enforcing city codes as it relates to signs in public right-of-ways. And they, in error, picked up 2 additional ones.
Okay. But
all right, hang on.
In a neighborhood. Okay. In a neighborhood.
We know it wasn't 2 additional ones based upon the witness testimony. Okay, so why can't we just open up here and just be honest about the whole thing? But okay, roll it again. Had to stop there.
No, I just want to add, bro. Well, Tommy is listening to this call, to this interview, everybody.
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting
You'll
what he
hear.
does. I'm pretty sure they know who did it. They know everything, but they're not going to tell us. Let's continue.
A long time. I know you have too, and we've been through a lot of elections and signs of that you all have always been lenient on signs in right-of-ways. So someone must have given that order to go pick up political signs. And are you saying you don't know who gave that order?
I just received a text message from our city manager that it was the code supervisor who gave the order to pick up codes in the right-of-way.
Let's pause here, and Craig is about to hang up on the caller.
Wow.
Now, so we have this. I call this the swoop in. Tommy's listening, and that's good. He should be. And he texts to swoop in. Okay, after all the hubbub about I take responsibility for it. That's Tommy said I take responsibility. I'm responsible. I'm accountable. Accountable. After all of that, finally we get that it was the code enforcement. What was it? The director. So this is a big bombshell, big revelation.
Why didn't they tell us this before? Why did he say this? This is kind of weird if you think about it. Why did he give this info on a live radio show? He texted her right there. Is she lying? Did Tommy really text her? Why did this come out at this time? This is very odd if you think about the timing. Am I right? Like, what the hell's going on here? Very weird, in my opinion.
It's also another thing. We never heard the story that they were just picking up right-of-way signs, or at least I don't recall ever hearing that as the story. So once that was the story, then it appeared expedient to admit that it was the director of the code enforcement, which I don't necessarily believe that. And because also at first it was the bottom level employee who was overzealous. I think the term was used in
Oh,
the
we
past.
need to clip that. We need to clip that. You're right.
Yeah.
First they blamed the overzealous employee. Then they're saying they didn't have no training, and now they're saying it was the boss. What the hell? And I think I met him,
Now,
Rod.
I wouldn't want to work for someone who blames their bottom level employees for things like this. And that was the first thing that Lori said, way back a few weeks ago, is it was an overzealous employee, newer employee. It's kind of the bottom level employees that make the whole business work. And in fact, kind of what makes Midland work is all these people who are willing to risk their necks uh, doing a bunch of hard stuff. And you got to have a good boss who's like watching out for you. But anyways, I think maybe there was an attempt to do that on Tommy's part, but he didn't want to follow through on the term accountability. So finally, he needed to offset that liability onto the director of code enforcement.
Okay, I'm gonna finish this clip, but I went back a little bit so you can hear y'all. Look how Slanderson goes in there and saves the day for Lori.
Manager that it was the code supervisor who gave the order to pick up codes in the right of way.
All right, thank you for the call. And our number is 62.
It's a hang up.
He hung up.
That's a hang up, and our number is 62 whatever it is for the next caller. Maybe there is limitations on time, but I have heard a lot of people stay on air on the phone for a long time. But I'm not going to tell Craig how to do his show. It's his business. That's totally fine with me. Totally fine. It is what it is. Are we at around 12:59 on the time code?
This is at 12:30 when he hangs up on the caller.
I think we should let it roll for just 10 seconds just to see if we might miss something here.
8700 if you would like to talk to Midland Mayor Lori Blong, 620-8700.
The bottom line is we had an individual employee who messed up. They did something in error. We corrected it. We have owned that error, and this is a whole lot of dust up over something that has been corrected, and we're continuing to correct it moving forward.
Okay. Again, the term individual. Now, we know from the video that it was... there's balloons. Nice.
I want to text you. Go ahead.
I wonder... Now, we know from the video that there was at least two people, so it was not an individual. So that's a little bit dishonest there. Maybe Lori made a mistake. That's fine. But it was not an individual. It was multiple. And I think we're going to... If that's close to 12:59, we can skip to 15:02, because we're going to get a caller, and there's going to not be much meat in that until 15:02.
Here's 15:02.
I don't know what the answers are for all the bitterness.
Well, I think
I'm going to say real quick, I know who this person is. I was very disappointed with this call. I'm just going to leave it at that, but...
raise an important point here, and it is a mistrust at the federal level that is trickling down to the local level. And this on this sign issue, I think you're right. When we have enforcement of something that has not been enforced before, there is a learning curve, and there's bound to be some hiccups in that process. But I think we would all agree that it's important that we have code enforcement on illicit massage parlors to hold people to a high standard. It's important that we have enforcement on alcohol service SUDs and some of those things that are also part of this increased enforcement action through our codes department. There will be that we have to manage that can happen in error in that process, but we need to make this community safer, and we're doing that, and that's really the focus of this. And we're going to be committed going forward to making sure that folks are trained and that we're doing this in a way that is efficient and helpful to our community.
Yes, ma'am. And I think if we just didn't question each other's motives so much, like it's okay to say, hey, I'm wondering why we're doing this, but not like you have nefarious motives.
Sure.
I mean, because cases, locally, the only thing that I think that I've ever seen which that I've seen that was a individual who did something they probably shouldn't have done in a public capacity, was the guy before Booker on the school board. You know, it was either his niece or granddaughter. While she got a grant. It was either a grant or just a contract to paint the library.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it's really important for us to remember that elected officials in the city of Midland and on our school board and several of our other elected bodies are volunteers. These are community members who are part of our community. They shop in our stores. They send their kids to school with our kids. These are volunteers who want to serve our community and to, as you said, to assign motives to them when really their motivation is to serve. We might have different viewpoints on certain issues, but the motivation of these folks is to serve, and I think we need to remember that.
Well, I agree with that. And one more point I would make is that I think we could help people not be questioning everybody's motives when we find something that does actually have like a conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we just have to nip it in the bud, and if it happens, hold people fully accountable.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest problem is they've seen so many people do things that people in the private sector would go to jail for, and in government, they don't get held accountable.
Well, and I think that we see it at a federal level or a state level, and so we assume that it must be happening at a local level too. And so where there are issues like that, we have to address it and own it and move forward. But I don't think we need to be looking for a boogeyman behind every corner.
All right, and Mayor, you'll be running for re-election?
I do intend to run for re-election,
okay.
Yes.
8:53 now at Cable AM 1070 and FM 107.1. Here's a text from our Midland College text line. Why don't we have the people who are locked up in the sales?
If you're at time code 1801, you can skip to 2003. But before we roll that, I just want to mention, so she's talking about the code enforcement and the enforcement of liquor licenses and stuff. And we believe in equal treatment. And there's a venue called the Tailgate that has been breaking and continues to break 2 codes and is continued to be allowed to do it. So someone could very well allege that there is someone who is part of the tailgate operation that is close to the council and may have a right to question whether or not that tailgate is being treated with kid gloves because of a relationship. So this is a good example of how power can be used instead of money to do certain things. So sicking code enforcement on certain, the signs, for example. But then the tailgate, who doesn't have the correct exits, you need entrances and exits, and doesn't have the correct parking, they pay the fine. You just let them go, let them party. It's an important thing. That's bad optics.
That's pretty sorry, in my opinion. We just passed by the tailgate, bro, and they had big old trash cans. We almost hit my car. One time when they had a dust storm, their trash cans were flying across Big Spring Street from the tailgate and almost hit our car. Me and my wife just made that remark earlier, and they got a big old sign out there. They're out there getting drunk, drinking, and partying. But like you said, they just pay the fine, and they keep on going, and they've been in business for a couple of years now. So you're right. I didn't think about that. They want to nitpick, or they want to target certain business owners and establishments, yet there's one that's currently breaking the rules right now, and everybody knows about it. But you're right. I wonder if there's any connections with anyone that owns the tailgate or the land or whatever. I wonder who owns it and if there's any connections with the city. Pretty interesting.
You could skip to 1801.
Okay. It's right here. Or it's 2003. Is that where you wanted that?
Oh, no. 1801 1801.
I think that's where we were at earlier.
The last 2 minutes.
I think we're at the...
Okay, cool.
Let me see.
Running for re-election?
I do intend to run for re-election,
okay.
Yes.
8:53 now at Cable AM 1070 and FM 107.1. Here's a text from our Midland College text line. Why don't we have the people who are locked up in the sales? Probably meant cells, but it says sales. Salespeople should be locked up, I would give you that. But why are people, I'm assuming, in the cells, not cleaning the highways? And, of course, that's a county thing, and you got to have enough guards and all that kind of thing?
We do have a partnership with the county jail and with the sheriff to have workers from the county jail to be able to do pickup. But as you say, they have to have enough guards to be able to do that safely. And so sometimes they have personnel restrictions that don't allow it. But they've partnered with us multiple times over the last couple of years.
And the other issue is they used to get like time and a half for going out and doing stuff like that. And now they don't. So they just,
I think that's
they don't
a
have
state
an
regulation.
Yeah, they don't have an incentive to go out and pick up trash. They're like, whatever. I'll just stay here and watch TV.
Yeah.
All right, we have a text. Just saw a realtor sign on the 3200 block of someplace, don't know where. Should it be picked up? I have no idea where that would be.
At this point, we are not pursuing political signs, and we are doing training to make sure that everybody understands that at the city staff level.
All right.
Or the tailgate.
Massage parlors,
Massage parlors, as I said earlier, the certificates of occupancy for several of these places had not been enforced. And so as we're finding those, we're going through enforcement processes there. We're also partnering with the state and with several local groups to be able to have increased enforcement. And so we're coming at that from multiple different angles. Also with the state licensing board, most of these places do not carry the appropriate state licensing. And so we're working with that state organization also for enforcement. So we're aggressively pursuing these, but we were doing it in conjunction with these other groups.
All right, Mayor, I know there's always discussion about Midland Development Corporation, as any city would have, I'm sure. But again, this was, you tell me if I'm wrong, I believe the citizens voted to establish MDC.
The citizens voted to establish the MDC in the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know the exact date. I want to say maybe 01 is when it was put into place. And it has been in place following state law for the duration of that time. And there is a state law that governs this and other economic development corporations of its kind around the state. There are specific restrictions on how those dollars can and cannot be utilized, but it comes from 1/4 cent of our sales tax that is allocated specifically to economic development and to things that bring additional economic development jobs and tax basis to our community.
I just want to ask the audience, well, no, not the audience, just the city, really. Can you give us a number on, we want to know how much money the Midland Development Corporation has spent since it was established. Now, it was voted on in 01. It was established in 02. How much money has it spent altogether, total, and how many total jobs has it created? And I want to take that number and divide it to see how much per job the MDC has cost, or using taxpayer money. And also, Midland Doge has requested all the transactions from MDC, including credit cards and bank statements. And if we don't get that, we're going to be a little concerned on that. So please don't ignore that. Okay, you can go ahead and roll it.
And so the MDC has followed that since its inception.
Is there a new director of MDC?
Sarah Harris took a leave of absence, and she has announced that she will be returning to her role.
Okay. Madam Mayor, we got to run with that. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. Hope you have...
Interesting. So, Kyle, hold on 1 second. Go ahead.
Well, everybody knew that the executive director of MDC had resigned. So I'm not entirely sure what happened. First of all, now I'm very curious. Why did she resign? And why was she, did she change her mind? And she was like, you know what, I think I need to keep going. Or did someone convince her to stay? And what were the reasons for that? It would have made a lot of sense if she had just resigned and then they picked a new person. But she resigned, then there was no thing sent out to try to hire a new person, and then voila, she's going to stay. And I just wonder what happened there, and we may never find out, but it's interesting. What's going on with the MDC?
Sarah Harris is her name. Turn my little AC off back here. Well, if I can. Sarah Harris is her name, and it's interesting because she quit all of a sudden, and then we trying to find, I don't know if she resigned publicly or how it worked, but you heard what the mayor said. She had a leave of absence, So what is it, Lori? Did she have a leave of absence? Did she resign? And now she's coming back. I think this is very interesting with the Sarah Harris situation. That's the main person at the MDC. And I would even say this, Kyle, the deal with the MDC, I have him on camera admitting it. It's public knowledge, right? A lot of us didn't know about it. But the attorney for the city of Midland is also the attorney for the MDC. He told me that's okay because they wrote it in the bylaws. So I have a question though. Doesn't that seem like a conflict of interest to have people that are dealing with the city of Midland also serving other positions in the MDC? It's like, is there going to be any correct checks and balances with that kind of a scenario there? I don't believe so. I think that actually leads for more questions, and it's not a good look in my opinion. Now, are they doing anything illegal, fraudulent? I don't know. I'm not saying they are, but I do know that to me is not how I want the MDC in the city of Midland to be interjected with people running. And it's kind of similar with other people from Midland College, right? They're all sitting in these different positions that are all interconnected. Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing comes up a lot of how this person's on the board of this thing that's also serves on the college board and these different boards. And there's laws out there that are like, well, you can serve on different boards if they're not all paid, but that was specifically made for very small towns, a town of 2,000 or something. And I'd have to look at the legal on that again to see if there is some stipulation where if it's not absolutely necessary, you're not supposed to be serving on multiple boards. That very well may be the case. But yeah, I agree. The attorney serving both the MDC and the city, and I wonder, is the MDC also paying him? Is he getting double paid for that? There's a lot of consolidation here, and what we want is less consolidation for many reasons. One of the reasons is it's a lot harder to spend a ton of money all at once when you got to go through all these checks and balances and stuff. Really less consolidation, and most importantly, we want really unprecedented transparency would be great. I don't really expect that though, but definitely transactions would be nice, and seeing credit card statements and how people are spending, and who is getting the contracts and all that, and particularly the consultants. I really am interested in the consultants. So, and to conclude that interview, when I heard it, like I said, there was so much going on in that I could not resist calling you or texting you or whatever and saying we need to do a something on that. It's interesting, and the more the people out there who may be watching this learn about the process, and the more you familiarize yourself with the talking points and the techniques, the more it'll save you time, and it'll save your money, because you'll be able to read between the lines immediately when you hear someone talking on air or read something in MRT or something. It's fun. At least to me. So thank you for having me, Nino.
Yes,
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, and before we wind down, ask a couple questions. Kyle, do you believe that there's corruption in Midland, Odessa? What do you think?
I believe that Matt Freese's speech at the town hall is open and shut proof of corrupt activity, muscling the Chamber of Commerce to control the narrative on the bond. Because remember, the Chamber it concerns business. Lots of businesses are involved with the Chamber. So if you're trying to get a bond passed and you get the Chamber involved, the Chamber says go to your employees and make sure they go vote for that thing. That is a huge advantage. And seeing as the Chamber is publicly funded, it's an unfair advantage.
Okay. With that, y'all, we thank y'all for this hour-long presentation of breaking down Lori Blong calling into a local radio show host this show. Like I said, on the surface level, you hear her speak. But once we really sat back, a lot of us have been we're digging into a lot of stuff, y'all. That's all I got to say. It's simple and plain. And once you hear these people speak and you listen back, I'm glad that he has this on the archives. We already got a screen recorded, but you listen to them and you kind of figure out, what they did here. I don't think it was a good look for her to go on there and, kind of mock us, slander us. I don't know, kind of have a certain smug attitude. I heard that she's known for this, even with the firefighter pension situation. But again, I'm glad that it's up there for us to, dissect and look into. Again, I guess this is probably the worst nightmare. We've started with Midland College. Now we want to see the books and the moves of the city of Midland. I want to see where my money's going, and it's very interesting, to say the least, of what we have found so far. And with that, Kyle, I appreciate your time. I'm going to go ahead and end the video. I'll holler at you. I'll catch you later, Kyle. God bless you, and thanks for joining me on the show today.
Thank you very much, Nino. Appreciate you.